What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the vlog. I'm Dookie Betts. This is going to be vlog number 14. Today we're playing 1-3 at Encore up in Boston. Pretty cool poker room. Glad I got the chance to go play up there. We got a pretty quality session for you guys today, so we're going to break it down, analyze some of the interesting hands. Obviously, the last two vlogs where I played at Gate City and Turning Stone did very well, so I'm really happy about that. And I think I'm going to continue this sort of series, if you will. I'm going to try and play in as many spots up in New England that we can, get all over. As long as we can film in the poker room, I think I want to go play there. So yeah, let's just go experience as many different places as possible. If you guys have a card room that you play at frequently in the New England area, comment down below and I might just go and play and film a session there. So without further ado, let's hop into this video where we play 1-3 at Encore in Boston, Mass. Alright, vlog. We just arrived at Encore in Boston. This place is quite the degenerate jungle gym, I have to say. It's pretty crazy looking just from the outside. I haven't really been in yet, but we're going to go check it out. This is my first time here, so I don't really know what I'm getting myself into. I do know that the rake is pretty bad from what I've heard, so we're definitely going to be trying to play some 3-bet or fold. Got to avoid the small pots. Small pots are how you lose in high rake games, so a lot of 3-betting. We're also going to try and tighten up a bit pre-flop. I think after reviewing the last vlog, we were playing a bit too loose, a bit too aggressive, so we're just going to chill today, play our game. We have the Barbie shirt on, so we're probably going to win like $1,000. We always run good in this thing. And yeah, let's go turn some sand into gold. We walk into the Encore poker room. They give us kind of a hard time for having a backpack, so we have to go run back to our car, get rid of our backpack. We throw all of our filming equipment into like a small little lunchbox that I had. So that was sort of unfortunate, but other than that, no real issues. The online list at Encore is very long. It's usually like 30 or 40 people. So driving up, I was a little freaked out by that at first. But then once you look at it, it's really just all call-ins, so nobody's really there. So we pretty much got a seat immediately as soon as we showed up. We buy in for $500, which is the max at the 1-3 table. And we are fired up and ready to gamble. The first 15 minutes of our session, we pretty much just fold, nothing really too good. In this hand, we pick up Queen 9 offsuit in the small blind. We see an under the gun limp followed by a hijack and a button call. With our hand, we just flick in $2 more out of the small blind, and the big blind checks behind, so we're going 5 ways with a pretty crappy hand. The flop comes and we hit it reasonably well here. It's a queen high flop, so not bad for our specific hand. We start with a check, and it checks all the way around to the button player, who bets $15. And with our top pair, we're obviously going to be calling here, so we flick it in. After we call the $15, the big blind player calls, as does the under the gun, so we're still 4 ways to a turn. The turn comes the ace of hearts. Once again, we check. This is a pretty bad card for us for obvious reasons. And it checks all the way around, so we get to play a free river. The river comes the king of diamonds, so this board really just ran out very poorly for our specific holding. We check once again, ready to be done with it, and the big blind now bets $25. It folds all the way around to me, and I pretty quickly just release my hand here. We are certainly not good with this run out. Really not that significant of a hand, but this was the first hand of the day that we V-pipped, so I figured I'd throw it in there. Next hand of the session, we pick up King 10 of diamonds in the hijack. We see a low jack limp to $3, and I make it 20 to go. Everyone folds, and we pick up all of the money in the pot and win our first pot at Encore. Next hand of the day, we pick up Ace Queen of spades in the hijack once again. We see a +1 raise to $12 from a good player who also said he watches the vlogs, which was pretty cool to hear. Never really been recognized at a casino before, so first time for everything, I guess. Shout out to you, Mario. After the raise to 12, we see the low jack flat the $12, who's definitely a fun player. We squeeze things up to $40 to go, and we get both players to call here, so we're going 3 ways in a 3-bet pot with a pretty good suited ace. The flop comes ace 7-3 all hearts, so we definitely flopped a good top pair, but it's a little bit dicey on the monotone board. They both check and flow over to me, and I'm going to put out a bet here to protect against one heart holdings and any sort of draws that they may have. We definitely have the best ace. As played, nobody can really have ace king. They could have sevens or threes, I suppose, but it doesn't seem super likely. We bet $50, and they both pretty quickly fold their hands. So we pick up a nice pot here in a three-way, three-bet pot. Next hand of the day, we are in the hijack once again, and we pick up ace-jack offsuit. We see a low-jack limp, and we bump it up to our standard open of $20. The button cold calls our $20, and it gets back to the limper, and he calls as well, so we are going three ways in a single raise pot, sandwiched in between two players. The flop comes queen-jack 10 with two hearts. We have no heart in our hand, and honestly, I felt like this was a pretty bad board for my hand at the time. I feel like this board is really going to smash the button overcalling range here a lot. He's going to have a lot of 8-9 and jack 10 and things of that nature. So we just check, and he checks behind, so we get a free turn, which comes the magical jack of diamonds. The low jack checks it over to me once again, and it's now time to start betting. As played, nobody can really have queens or tens, so with the exception of jack 10 or queen jack, we really have the best hand here, and we are also blocking those combos, so that helps. We bet $30, and the button folds, and the low jack pretty quickly puts in the call, so we're heads up to the river. The river comes the king of spades, so we now improve to a straight. Improving to the straight doesn't really matter here all too much, I don't think. We pretty much had the best hand anyways, so if anything, this is just bad for us now. And when this river comes, the low jack player now rips his stack all in the middle. It's $117. There's really not that many boat combos that he can have. He is playing an interesting play style at the very least. It's a nice way of putting it. So we put in the call, and he shows ace-8 offsuit, so he got there for the straight, and we chop it up. Pretty unfortunate river card for us, considering how large the pot did end up getting, and that all could have been ours if we just had a nice little brick on the river. But a chop is better than a loss, so we will take it. On to the next hand. 10 minutes later, we pick up ace-deuce of diamonds in the big blind. We see the low jack and the hijack players limp. And the small blind player, the player we just battled with, raises things up to $15. I put in the call here. Maybe this is a spot where I should be 3-betting, but against this specific player, I think it's better to definitely just call. I don't really think 3-betting against this guy with a weak ace is really ever the move. The low jack puts in the call, and the hijack folds, so we are 3 ways to a flop with ace-deuce. The flop comes ace-high two-tone, so reasonable start for us, I'd say. The small blind puts in a continuation bet of $20. I'm not folding top pair to this guy. I call, and the low jack folds, so we are heads up to the turn with $88 in the middle. The turn comes the 10 of diamonds, so it pairs the board. Small blind now slows down and checks, and I'm happy to check back, play some pot control here. Don't need to bloat this pot with top pair, no kicker. The river comes the jack of diamonds, which is a pretty decent card for us, I'd say. If he does have an ace, we're likely chopping. I think he would probably bet the turn with ace-queen and ace-king. So if he is going to bet an ace here, we are probably just good to call and chop a lot. But he doesn't bet here, he checks it. And I think it's time to definitely go for some value here. I can see this player calling bets with all kinds of stuff, so I'm definitely going to go for some value. We bet $30, and he pretty quickly calls with king-7 of diamonds for just king-high.
Call 30, call 7. Still the last one of diamonds. Oh, look at this. Diamond come up.
Damn, king high.
What?
You didn't believe me that much?
Huh?
You didn't believe me?
No,
Yeah, strange hand for sure, but we'll take it. I mean, that's one of the dumbest hands I've ever seen, honestly. Next hand of the day, we pick up king queen of spades in the hijack. Probably one of the prettiest hands there is, to be honest with you. We see the low jack player limp in once again, and I raise things up to $20. We get the button player who calls. He's a competent reg, I'd say, and everyone else folds, so we're heads up out of position with a pretty decent hand. The flop comes ace queen 5, 2 hearts. So we flop a piece. Pretty good for our range as well. We're going to stick in a bet here. I think I could check as well, but because this board is going to be so much better for me than him, I'm happy to bet small here. We make it 20 bucks, and he pretty quickly calls, we're going to a turn. The turn comes the 6 of diamonds. I'm going to slow down here and check now, and he pretty quickly bets $45, and we're just going to get away from this hand. Pretty interesting spot though, I'd say, because this is a good, respectable player, I'd say. So in my opinion, he could definitely have stolen the pot from me here on the turn, but just the speed in which he put the bet in makes me think that he did have a real hand. But let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Should I check the flop here for pot control and then maybe bet the turn instead? Let me know what you guys would do. On to the next hand. Next hand of the day, we pick up Queen Jack of Hearts. Under the gun, we're playing 1-3-6. Our friend to the right has the straddle on to $6, and we raise things up to 20 bucks. It folds all the way around to the straddler, and he rips things all in for $94. Ugh. This guy's putting us in spots all day long. After breaking down the math, we are calling $74 to win $192. Obviously, that excludes the rake, but that means we need 38.5% to make this a profitable call. It's going to be a little bit higher than that once you take out $10 to $12 worth of rake. Against most players, this would be a snap fold, but not this guy. I think he could have anywhere from 2s up and then maybe even like Jack 10 suited, 10-9 suited, etc. He's definitely a splashy player. We've seen him do things like call with king high on the river. Also worth mentioning, a hand that I didn't include in the vlog, I raised under the gun and he just clicked it back and he ended up having queens in that spot. So I'm honestly able to eliminate aces, kings, queens, maybe even jacks, just because I think if he had those hands, he would just click it back. He's shown that the super strong hands, he's clicking rather than jamming. So I'm eliminating some piece of the top region of his range. So for the most part, I just think like we kind of have to call here. I don't know. Maybe we don't have to at all. Maybe we're just gambling here. Let me know what you guys think. We end up making the call here and he has ace king offsuit. After checking the equities, we have about 38% equity. So it's pretty much a break-even call. We're losing a few chips in terms of EV here, but not by much. We run things once, obviously, versus ace king, and here's the run out. What is that, like 90 something?
90 something, yeah. So it's gonna be like 96, 94.
All right, let's gamble.
Gamble, he says. We're gambling.
Yep. Am I way behind? All right.
AK.
I got queen jack suited.
We got a straight. One of us gonna catch one.
Yeah. I'm
Somebody's
behind.
gonna catch one.
3 in the window.
Oh. Stay that way.
Nice hand. I think in a really close spot like this, it's always better to err on the side of caution, and just throwing your hand away here really can't hurt you that much. But in this specific spot against this player, I think this call is fine, to be honest with you. We have direct position on this guy. He's played literally every hand for the last hour and a half. So giving this guy some chips really isn't that bad. We'll likely have opportunities to earn them back in the future. So yeah, I really don't hate my gamble here, but let me know. Next hand of the day, we pick up pocket kings on the button. Up until this point, this is the strongest hand that we've received from the dealer. So we're very eager to click some buttons and put some chips in the middle with this one. We see an under the gun and a +1 limp, and then the grandma in the hijack position clicks it up to $6, so that's certainly interesting. With my pocket kings, I'm going to be putting more money in the middle. We make it 25 to go. I could maybe even go like 30 or 35 here, I think, but 25 seems alright. We don't want to scare everybody off. The under the gun limper makes the call, and everyone else folds, so we're going heads up to a flop, with some dead money in there as well. The flop comes king jack 6 two-tone board with 2 spades. The under the gun player checks it over to me and I bet $20. In hindsight, I definitely need to be betting larger here for 2 reasons. Reason 1 is this is a two-tone board with some straight and flush draws, obviously. So if we bet third here, that doesn't really get those hands to fold often enough. Second reason we need to go larger is this player has about $140 behind. So based on his effective stack, this really should just be a 2-street hand, like bet the flop, get it all in on the turn, go from there. If we bet 40 or 45 here, we would set up a 1-to-1 jam on the turn, which seems a lot cleaner than what we end up doing. So we bet $20, he just calls. Now we're going to a turn with $103 in the middle. The turn comes the 4 of clubs, bringing in a second flush draw now. He checks it over to me once again, and I jam for $125. All in.
All in the quick.
As you guys can clearly see, this would look a lot cleaner if we bet slightly larger on the flop, but instead we're slightly over betting the turn, which I think is still fine. Not as cute as we would like it to look here. After we go all in for about $125 effective, he tanks for a really long time and eventually makes the correct lay down. I assume he had some sort of draw, and he laid it down correctly. Yeah, pretty interesting hand. We still got a good amount of value out of it and won a decently large pot, so we will take it. Next hand of the day, we pick up Queen 3 offsuit in the big blind. We see a low jack limp, the cutoff calls, the button calls, and so does the small blind. We have Queen 3 offsuit, so we are tapping the table here. Don't really want to be raising this hand ever. So we go 5 ways to a flop with a hand we don't really want to play, but we're sort of forced to. And we're an absolute chick magnet here because there's 2 queens on the flop, as well as a deuce to go with it. So we flop trips, really good start for us. I check in flow, and it checks all the way around to the button, who bets $6 into about 15. I don't really want to give up the strength of my hand just yet, so I just put in the call with a few people left to act behind me, and everyone else folds, unfortunately, but we're heads up to the turn, which comes the jack of hearts. So at this point, now that we're heads up, we're pretty much trying to get as much money in as possible. This is an older woman we're up against, so it's hard to give her any credit for a bluff. I just feel like every time grandmas bet into a pot, they have something, right? I've never seen a grandma bluff. I check once again in flow, and she bets $6 once again. Need to be going for value here. It's actually kind of scary going against a grandma, but I'm gonna raise it up to $30. She thinks for a bit and eventually puts in the call. River comes the 4 of diamonds, so this board ran out pretty clean for our hand. There's about $90 in the pot. I think if I go super crazy here, she might fold a lot. So I just bet 50, don't want to get too greedy. She thinks about it for a bit, gives us a little speech about how we might have a queen, and then puts in the $50 for the call. She flips over ace jack offsuit, and we are good against that, so we win a $187 pot here with the big blind special. Gotta love it. This next hand's a quick one. We see a low jack raise from our friend Mario, who said he watches the vlogs. Again, shout out to you, Mario. He raises things up to $12, and it gets over to me in the button, and I pretty quickly squeeze things up to $40. We have a pretty looking ace on the button. Might as well 3-bet it. Folds all the way back to Mario, and he puts in the call. We're going heads up to a flop. The flop comes jack high with 2 hearts. He checks it on over to us. I put in a $40 c-bet, and he pretty quickly folds. Pretty quick hand, but a nice pickup nonetheless.
You didn't see the beaver. You didn't look at the beaver.
Yeah, he just resigned to the fact that he lost 4.
Yeah.
Next hand of the day, we pick up pocket 6s in the under the gun position. There's the straddle on to $6, and you solver nerds are really going to hate this one, but we limp it in here. I think low pocket pairs like this, I kind of like limping them in early position, but it's probably not GTO approved, so don't listen to me. I limp it in, and we see the +1 call, as does the hijack and the cutoff. It gets over to the button player, and he squeezes things up to $40. It folds back over to me, and I really don't believe this guy. I've seen this guy click a few buttons. He seems like a decent enough player, but definitely on the aggressive side for sure. Against some players, I would obviously be snap folding my pocket 6s, but against this guy, I think we can see a flop with them. So that's what we do. I put in the call, and everyone else folds, so we're going heads up out of position with about $108 in the middle. The flop comes jack 7-6. Rainbow board. Beautiful flop for us. We drill bottom set. I'm going to check it over, check in flow. I think he's going to have a decent amount of continues on this board. Hands like overpairs, maybe ace jack, king jack, things like that. He'll have a fair amount of bets, and there's really not many draws he can have when he sort of 3-bets pre-flop. Like, he's not really going to have 8-9 suited or anything like that. So we're either extremely ahead or extremely behind. Like, he could have jacks, I guess. We check, and he checks back, so that kind of stinks for us. Turn comes the queen of spades. Things get a little dicier now. Hands like ace king of spades have a decent draw, so I think with respect to that, this card is going to be much better for his range than mine. So I decide to check here once again. In hindsight, I think I should just throw all the GTO mumbo jumbo out of the way here and bet my set. It's live poker. We're playing low stakes. I should probably be shoveling money in here at this point, but we get a little bit trappy and just check. I mean, it is what it is. What are you going to do? And he checks back once again, so I'm kind of kicking myself for not betting the turn at this point. We haven't gotten any value so far. The river comes the 4 of hearts, and at this point I need to put in a bet. I need to get something. He really hasn't shown any sort of aggression whatsoever, so that makes me think his hand is quite weak. I don't really think he has a jack. I don't really think he has a queen. I think maybe he could have like 10s, 9s, 8s, maybe something like that. We go with a half pot size here. I think this is a pretty good size to get called on, especially when the action goes check, check, check all the way to the river. We put in the $50 bet, and he snaps us off with ace queen, and I'm really pissed at myself for this hand. We won the absolute minimum here, and this guy kind of wrecked us. Yeah, he took our soul on this hand.
Oh, really?
Yeah, really. They told him earlier it was okay, so don't tell them.
So yeah, after filming for about 3 hours, the floor finally comes over to me and says that I can't film anymore. Pretty stupid, to be honest. I pretty much filmed the entire session, and they're just now saying something. The guy 2 seats to my left backs me up on it as well, so he's a beast for that. Shout out to that guy. Luckily enough for us, we pretty much recorded the entire session. We missed about one hand, and it was this one. This hand was a very significant one for the entirety of the session though, so it is kind of unfortunate that I wasn't able to film it, but that's alright. What are you gonna do? In this hand, we're playing 1-3-6. I pick up ace king of clubs under the gun, and with big slick suited, we're obviously raising things up. We make it $20 to go. It folds all the way around to grandma in the big blind, and she jams for $135. It gets back over to me, and I honestly kind of nit rolled her on this one. I was super scared that she had aces and kings. I really hadn't seen her play any hands except the ace jack one. She was super tight and very passive for the most part pre-flop, so this was a scary hand for me for sure. Definitely gave her a little bit of a nit roll, but I eventually called with ace king, and she flipped over ace queen offsuit, so obviously I felt like a total dick after that. We had a nice king in the window too, and we hold to win a $277 pot, and this gave us a nice little profit on the session. Once again, kind of sucks that we couldn't get it on film, but such is life.
Alright, vlog. After literally playing for like all day, like 3.5, 4 hours pretty much, one of the floor guys told me to turn the camera off, stop recording. Sorry. He told me to stop recording. He said it wasn't allowed, which I'm pretty sure this place is owned by the Wynn, so I think the Wynn lets people film poker, but who knows? He told me not to, so I stopped. Pretty intimidating gentleman, didn't really want to get involved with him. He'd probably beat my ass. But yeah, after we stopped filming, we actually stacked a grandma player, so that was pretty cool. We made about $130 on that hand, something like that. Before the rake, obviously. Got an ace king versus ace queen, so that was pretty cool. This place is a really interesting spot. On one hand, it's a very nice casino, and I do like playing here. It's not too far from where I live, so that's kind of nice. But on the other hand, the rake is just super egregious. It's like $12. Something like that, or it's 10% capped at 12, which is crazy compared to some of the New Hampshire places, which is $7-8, so much more manageable. I think if I at one point in time have a bankroll to play 2-5, I'll definitely come here and play 2-5 because the action's good, the casino is nice, it's a good environment. But nonetheless, glad we booked a good win. We were in the game for $500, out for $7.95 for a profit of $295. We'll definitely take that. Good recovery from our last session at Gate City, so we're definitely stepping in the right direction. I thought we played all right today. Like, we weren't as loose pre-flop. We weren't splashing around as much as we have been in the past. Good discipline on our behalf. We played for about 4 hours. I think that sort of has something to do with it as well. I sort of noticed in my last video I played pretty poorly from hour 4 to hour 5. So I think going forward, I'm going to have to limit myself to playing just 4-hour sessions, just because I haven't really been playing that much. Back when I was at school and we played 3-4 nights a week, it was very easy to play 4-hour sessions. I could definitely play for longer than that, but I'm sort of out of shape, if that makes any sense at all. Just out of shape in terms of playing long poker sessions. But yeah, really good win. I do kind of like this place, and I'll definitely be back for maybe a 2-5 session in the future. If you guys made it to this point in the video, go comment down below where I should play next, somewhere in the New England area that's going to allow me to film. I definitely want to go all over the place and play in as many spots as I can, meet new people, and just experience a bunch of different card rooms all over New England. So if you guys have a good spot and you're in New England, let me know and maybe I'll make the trip one day. But yeah, overall good session, won about $300. Played well, and until next time, Dookie Bets.